again, that's why we are here, right? Like Varshini, like what is it that we ourselves can do? Like one is the unlearning thing for sure, but
Yeah.
what is it in our day-to-day lives you think that we need to change about our behavior and start understanding that okay, these are things in our dialogue or our like interactions with women that we need to change, or interactions with each other. It doesn't just have to be talking to one specific gender or whatever, but like in general,
Yeah.
like what is it that we need to start changing within ourselves?
Please preach.
I personally believe one of the main things that men and women both should do is call out other people when you feel that they are being sexist or racist or contributing to patriarchy or locker room banter or rape culture, whatever it may,
Mm-hmm.
whatever level it may be. Call them out, even if it's casual sexism like, oh, women can't drive. Call them out. It's as simple as that, because when you put that thought in their head, and then you, at least there's some hope that okay, maybe he will think about it, or maybe she will think about it going back home, and maybe something will change and she will or he will stop someone else.
True.
It's a thing. It's a cycle that you have to break. And I constantly keep telling other people. So I recently had a conversation with a friend who was female and said, oh, I'm an equalist, I'm not a feminist. And just because I am a feminist, she said, oh, but I'm not as against men as you are. And that kind
And
of really triggered me off, because I was like, just
uh,
because I support women does not mean I'm against men.
Yeah,
yeah,
same. It's not a
that
zero-sum game, man.
that notion of like just because you're supporting one person and that means you have to be against the other doesn't like again, it's not the case at all.
I had someone call me out on social media and said, "Bro, तेरा रेप हुआ है क्या? तो तू क्यों इतना उछल रहा है?" I'm like, तू
Oh
पागल
my
है क्या?
God.
मतलब तू पागल है क्या? मतलब do I have to wait to get raped to call out something that's wrong? Like really, what happened to like seeing something far ahead and having an intuition and nipping it in its bud? So it's silly. So you're right about that. That you need to call out people. You need to because as people we hate to pause and think. We hate to
Yeah,
Yeah.
ponder. We,
Yeah.
we don't like to be Ponzi. We're all just wanting to just keep talking, like I'm doing right now. So you have to stop me in the middle and say, hey, you know what? There's something wrong with what you're doing right now. But
Yeah.
hazy, hey hazy,
I think hazy.
Z,
Yeah.
you need to stop talking and let Varshini
I
speak.
realize now. Sheeples, this is the way you do it, and that's
Yeah,
actually also very important. Is the way you do it. The way you can be really kind in calling someone out. You don't
yeah,
have to tag them and 50 other friends and say, hey, you know what, this friend is a sexist. Everybody, let's just boycott him.
and yeah, that's the
Yeah. You
other
don't have
half
to
of
do
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
You
way
can
you
just
break.
casually be like,
Yeah.
you know what, maybe you should not do this. Maybe you should not
Yeah.
say this. Maybe
Correct.
just, shut up for a minute and listen to other people.
Yeah. I love to, like
I mean,
it's very
especially for these
important.
small thing, like when it's like not something that that's really large in and something they might not realize themselves. You don't have to
Yeah.
be like, oh, listen, everybody, this guy does this. No, 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 no. You can just be polite to them,
Yeah.
go up to them, speak to them, and when those things don't work, when they are not ready to listen, that's when you need to like maybe do something else about it. But uh, especially like when it's not something that's really toxic, and rather that person does not even realize what they're doing, maybe just you speaking to them might change that, just might like bring that small difference.
Yeah, yeah, it will definitely. A lot of people are like, oh, maybe when this whole boys locker room conversation happened, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe the parents should have done better or the school should have done better. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, okay, like, I understand you're saying it's bad parenting, but we can't absolve ourselves of that responsibility, because we
Yeah.
as a society is going through the problem. We made it okay about this whole boys will be boys narrative. We made it okay to victim blame, and this obsessive trolling happens every day on the internet to most women, and these are the things these boys and girls are growing up around.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Fair.
And that's what needs to change, and you can't just blame it on the parent or the school. You have to change as a society.
Yeah.
And
Complete.
that's where, like, we said this in the beginning, right? You are your own person, and when you do that, like, even parents are like not always going to be there to like they can tell you things and all those kind of things, but they don't, like, they aren't going to be looking at what you're doing every day on your phone or whatever. And that it's not your parents that told you to, oh, try this, right? Like, you,
Yeah.
that was your decision to look at that picture and say you wanted to do those kind of things to that
No,
person.
matlab
And
at some point you, and I think it can happen as early as 13, 12. You develop an internal compass that really starts pointing out towards what's right. I mean, everybody has an inkling कि मतलब यार ये मैं गलत बोल रहा हूँ. And if you don't act on that, then that's really on you. I mean, if you try to defend these people on Instagram saying they were minors, that's as messed up as the Nirbhaya incident where one
Yeah.
person was let off the hook because he was a
He
minor.
was a minor.
mm,
And
Yeah.
as someone who studied
at
law,
least finally they like, to gave justice to that case. And even though it's too late now,
no,
way too late
Yeah,
they're
but
now.
making it that
did
way.
you see how long it took?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. Oh
also
my
making
god.
it that way that the juvenile who was just a few days away from being 18 was
Yeah.
actually put up in a juvie home and let off
And
in
he was the one who done the
7
worst thing as well, right?
Yeah, and that juvenile is now roaming the streets pretty free. So the whole मतलब ये एक tendency गलत है हम लोग की that when someone blames you ना you immediately fend that off with a excuse. What
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that's the problem with just accepting that hey okay you know what I did something wrong and just be quiet for a minute. Why do you have to defend it immediately? It
And yeah, and that's what we need to kind of start understanding ourselves. And this is on our generation especially, because we are kind of starting to see these things every
yeah,
day.
Yeah.
the party
Like,
is always so confused with the fact that what really is the problem for so many men? Why are they so? I would use the term afraid. Why are they so afraid of a woman's body? I mean, me and Aishwan were talking about this the other day. I think I
Yeah.
told him that there was this movie Dostana, in which
Yeah.
there's a poster in which John Abraham is pretty much 95% naked. Like
Yeah.
there's a side shot of him and he's wearing these small swimming trunks and he's उसने नीचे किया है उसको and you can see half his butt,
that,
you can
yeah,
see his
yeah, yeah,
entire
that
body.
picture.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is acceptable, but a woman, if her cleavage is exposed on the big screen, suddenly the censor board becomes all
Yeah. They censor it. Yeah.
traditional
Yeah.
and like हमारी संस्था करोड़ हो रही है and like of course they don't say that, just saying that for a joke, but it's so messed up. Why are we so afraid of a woman's body? And I would like to literally use the word afraid because that's what this behavior reeks of. Like if a man can go topless on the big screen, and if a woman has no problem with it and wants to go topless, who the hell is the censor board, or who the hell is the Janta, or who the hell are all these uncles who suddenly on WhatsApp say nahi hamara sanstha erode.
Sanskar. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so lame. I would literally say men, a lot of men are really afraid and they will do all that they can to literally, figuratively and literally try to control women and keep her tied down. And that
The stupidest thing in this argument especially is like, oh, seeing this will make the boy act like some, like, make him do some things that he shouldn't do. And what do you mean, like, those pictures will make them, like, can't the person learn to like understand and be a moral person and
like
realize they shouldn't
boy,
be doing this?
mentor the boy, counsel the boy, sit him down.
Yeah.
Like, why are academics teaching me about fucking rabi crops and kharif crops? Why are they not teaching
Yeah.
me about, like, why
I've
was I learning about sine theta, cos theta when I could have learned about being more sensitive towards women's problems? Like, I remember back in the sixth grade, man, and this was so douchey of all the guys in my class. There was a girl who had her first period in the sixth grade, and she had her first experience with the menstrual cycle, and she stained herself, and the guys laughed, and she cried,
uh,
and there was a female teacher in the class who was getting angry on the fucking girl. And
oh fuck.
Wow.
apparently, it turns out this girl was never given the talk by her parents. She didn't know what was happening to her. And all of the guys were like, "Dekh, usne susu kiya." Like, oh my god. When I look back and I'm like, that was so insensitive. I think
Hmm.
after that incident, at least the school should have realized that we need to sensitize boys towards this issue.
Also,
We need-
talks with kids in general.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
This This
I
this is
mean,
such a bigger issue because
it,
a
matlab,
lot of times, even when you even when I was in school, right, and when I had my period or whatever, I used to like I had to like hide the tampon or pad
yeah,
and like take
remember
it
that
because
black thing?
everyone
Like,
else would like, yeah,
that was so stupid, man. Like a few months ago, for my partner, I went to the chemist to buy a packet of pads, and
yeah,
the guy wrapped it in a newspaper, and I'm like, "ये क्या है?" And he smiled at me, and I told him, "तुम smile क्यों कर रहे हो?" And I said that like pretty loud because I thought I should call him out, and
yeah.
it also highlighted a bigger picture, which meant कि मेरे पहले अभी तक कोई भी लड़के ने उसको या कोई भी आदमी ने call out नहीं किया था, and that guy's been working there for at least 5 years now, and that's so messed up. I mean, why do we hide these things? And that's the one thing that we have to realize, that the forbidden fruit always is more interesting. And that's the forbidden fruit paradox. If you try to tell people not to talk about something, if you try to ban something, if you try to make something off limits, people will want it even more.
We want it more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look what happened with pornography. Look what happens with marijuana. Look what happens with MMSs. Look what happens with these nudes. Because the culture is a culture where नहीं हम सब छुपा के करेंगे.
Oh, like speaking of news, like just today in the morning only, I think I saw a tweet about it, and I think Varshini, you might have seen this as well.
yeah,
About like this person who kind of had this chat with this guy and told him that no, I don't want your nudes, and the guy was like, okay, I understand you don't want the nudes, and then sent her the nude, unwarranted. And then she like shouted at him like, "I told you I didn't want it." But then the guy is like, "No, I thought you meant yeah, I wanted the news." And like, what do you mean? Like she directly is messaging you and telling you, I don't want your picture." Like, and why are you sending it to me?
Links की
Unwanted.
तरह क्यों भेज रहे हो मुझे? मुझे नहीं चाहिए. What is wrong with you? Like all these unsolicited comments and photos and no
But
man.
before all this, like Varshini, you were mentioning something where I think we might have cut you off. Like you were saying something about school.
yeah. I was just saying, school in general have to talk about sex education and
Yeah.
menstruation. The only sex education we get was a 10th grade
You
chapter
remember that? You remember that?
called reproduction.
The boys and girls were in separate classes and everybody
Yeah,
was laughing, and more than information, I guess there was fucking misinformation. Like it
yeah.
was
And the
just
teachers were like trembling and they're like, "Oh my god, we have to talk about this terrible
Oh,
topic. What am I
that
gonna do?"
like they couldn't speak about it at all. I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, like, what the fuck is wrong with saying penis or breast or vagina or testicle? Like, why do people have to, like, the minute you say it, you're like, people will giggle. Like, what?
because
Yeah.
these things are so deeply sexualized and they're
Hannah,
always seen as a sexual object
you know,
and nothing beyond that.
that poor biology teacher when she had to teach a chapter on human reproduction system. Fuck. Like, oh my god. I think everybody can relate with how afraid the teacher was. Dude, my teacher didn't make eye contact for 60 minutes straight. And that is
Same, same.
Really,
I think
I think yeah. You know what? You're not wrong. For us as
I
well.
was raising my hand just to tell her, मैम पंखा on कर दो. I'm like, मेरी तरफ देख तो लो at least. But it was so messed up, man. Like some of these things in this country are so taboo. And whenever I say this country, no, whenever I call out India, I have a lot of people who respond by saying, "Bro, तू इंडिया का बुरा क्यों कर रहा है? दूसरे countries में भी होता होगा." And I'm like, I don't doubt it, but I don't stay in दूसरा countries. I stay in India.
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
India and we know what's happening here, so
हाँ,
we have
ये
to speak
ये
up.
रिफ्लेक्शन वाला एटीट्यूड है ना, ये वो
Uh,
वॉट अबाउटरी है जो मतलब you don't have an answer for this, so you're like, dude, what about Canada? What about Pakistan? Pakistan has it worse. I'm like, यार तू गया है क्या पाकिस्तान
dude.
में रहने? Like the closest you've been to Pakistan is the India-Pakistan cricket match. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. The only thing you know about Pakistan is that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's it. Bas, Pakistan
No,
sucks.
I mean, actually,
Like,
you know what? I think it's just that every Indian knows everything about Pakistan because everything bad you have to say like Pakistan.
हाँ, वो भी मतलब पब्लिक प्रेशर है ना, बोलना पड़ेगा.
uh,
ये तो फिर
Yeah. Otherwise, you are not
हाँ,
patriotic.
you're not
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. They like
Like,
you
यार
don't have
मतलब
the
I would
relationship.
I would say that that's still a micro issue as compared to what we have with, like,
Yeah,
there is no gender sensitization. There is no respect for the opposite gender. Patriarchy though is reeking from every crevice of every corner of the person, and it's unquestioned. मतलब like ऐसा ही चलता रहा है, ऐसा ही
Yeah.
होता है. मतलब You want logic, you won't get logic. You will get, no, this is how it's been.
And in the whole
Yeah, this is our
case of
culture.
yeah,